we'd like to thank our sponsors. So this would obviously not help, we wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have our sponsors. So I'd like to thank our College Central network, along with Mountain Sac and Live and Jackie Kennedy Harris and 06 Media. Thank you for, helping in this event. And some of these sponsors that we've had have obviously done it over a period of time and many years. So we appreciate your partnership.
I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul Butler with New Leaf. Welcome, Paul.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. I'm so delighted to be with you again today. I think this is the first time, Rosalinda, in 16 years where we've served as an opening speaker for 2 days running of a conference. So I love you.
We love you. And everyone here is going to love you as well. And if you enjoy his trainings, think about reaching out to New Leaf and reach out to Paul directly, and he'd be happy to coordinate trainings with you.
Oh, thank you. For those of you that weren't with us yesterday, so I own a company called New Leaf Training and Development, and we've been in the US now for about 16 years. And we've now served clients in 28 states, China, India, Western Europe, Australia. Then about 5 years ago, we opened up a second office in Florida. And I really am delighted to be with you today. We've now served about 24 of the California community colleges and also some of the major school districts as well. So I'm so delighted to be with you today. So it's story time again. I thought 2 short stories that I thought would be useful for you. And I thought if we could do what we did yesterday, where I'll just share this short story, which might run 3 or 4 minutes. And then I'd love to get your thoughts during the story, and certainly at the end of the story, because it's all about application, of course. And these are all true stories. And I carry a little notebook around with me. I'm fairly old school. My wife will tell you, I'm always kind of writing down little notes. And then once a week, I actually submit an article to our local newspaper, obviously physical newspaper and online. And I really just enjoy writing. I find it quite cathartic, when I've got something on my mind. So hopefully they'll be of use for you as well. Anyway, the first one I wanted to share with you today is actually a story called I Am Friendly. And it's a true story, as all of my stories are true, about the very first time we came to America. Hopefully you recall from, if I've worked with you before, or if you saw something on my profile, we came to America to start New Leaf in 2006, but that wasn't the first time we came to America. We actually came to the United States about 5 years earlier. So I'd love to share this short story with you and see where you see yourself in this story, because the principle really is within the story. I've kind of put the pill inside the cookie, as they say. Well, here we go. Well, the very first time we came to America was in the summer of 2001, so just before the dreadful events of 9/11. And we had 2 weeks at Disney World in Florida. And being from England, I didn't think the sun could stay out so long. We had such a fabulous time. Our daughter, Brodie, which for us is an old Irish name, Brodie, tends to be a girl's name rather than a boy's. I think over here you drop the IE and put a Y in there. It's so messed up, what you've done with our language. Our daughter Brodie was about 5, and our son Henry, well, then he'd be around about 4. And we met Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Pocahontas, and Goofy, and we had a really wonderful time. And on the very last day, we had to return the rental car to the rental car depot, and then had to wait for the bus to take us to the airport. Well, our bus was worth waiting for. It was rather like the other buses, tired and dusty. But something felt even better about this bus when the driver flung open the doors and with real gusto and verve said, "Welcome to my bus. This is the best ride in Florida." And this gentleman, he was probably in his late 50s, kind of graying hair, had a very tied uniform on, but he had really shiny shoes. I always remember that, really shiny shoes. And as we boarded the bus to the tune of "Don't Worry, Be Happy," which was playing on the driver's personal cassette recorder, you remember those? As the one on the bus had bust. And he declared, quote, "Parents, please tell me which airline you're flying with. Is it British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, or for you funny folks from Ireland, is it Aer Lingus? Now I'll take care of your bags. That's my job. Kids, we're going to have a wonderful trip." And during the process, the driver simultaneously entertained the children. As he said this to our daughter, he said, "Hey, young lady, what's your name?" Our daughter replied, "Brodie." "How old are you, Brodie?" She said proudly, "I'm 5. Now, can you drive a bus yet?" asked our driver. And at that point, Brodie put her head under Mom's arm and said no. And off she went to take her seat. Now, quick on his heels, the driver then asked our son, "Hey, little dude, what's your name?" To which he confidently replied, as he knew the next two questions coming, "Well, I'm Henry, and I'm 4, and I can indeed drive a bus." To which the driver responded, "Great, you're the co-pilot I've been looking for all along. Jump up here," pointing to the driver's seat, "and wait here for further instructions." So like a good little Englishman, that's exactly what Henry did. He opened the little door and jumped up on the seat, awaiting further instructions. After we'd all safely taken our seats, the driver lifted Henry up and placed him on his right knee, and my wife, Gaynor, grabbed my arm, and I assured her that all would be fine. We're probably just going to do a couple of laps of the parking lot, and then we'd be on our way. And my comments were interrupted by the driver asking over the microphone system, which was a bit crackly. "So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, do you really think that Henry can drive this bus?" "Yes," came the squeals from the kids, while there was a bemused silence, but a sense of intrigue I could tell from all the parents. Well, for a few seconds, catch this, our driver really did let Henry drive the bus at the mighty speed of about 3 miles an hour. And I can still see Henry's determined face as he grabbed the steering wheel. Henry was returned to his seat safely, but I could tell he'd grown in stature as he walked down the aisle to high fives and applause. And when we got to the airport, Brodie gave the driver's sleeve a tug and asked what his name was, to which he replied, "I am. That's my name. I-A-M." Now, Henry was feeling kind of Superman confident, and he gave his sleeve a really good yank and said, "Oh, yeah? So what's your last name then?" And the driver kind of squatted down and looked Henry straight in the eye, and only Henry and I heard this, and he said, "Friendly. That's my name. I am Friendly. Have a nice day, Henry. It was an honor to co-pilot with you." And Henry skipped off into the airport. Now, reminiscing on this now, I don't think his name really was I Am Friendly. But for whatever reason, he chose to give himself that name for the role that he played between Disneyland and the Florida airport while driving the Alamo rental car bus in the summer of 2001. When you make that kind of promise to yourself that's present tense and positive, how can you fail to provide great service? And then when we were back in England, we had the grandparents visit to look at the photographs and discuss the adventures. And I could still picture Henry. We had this beautiful old cottage. It was like built in 1612. And I can still picture Henry in his Thomas the Tank Engine pajamas and his Garfield slippers saying, "Granny, Gramps, you'll never guess what." We met Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Pocahontas and Goofy. But best of all, on the last day, I got to ride I Am Friendly's bus. See, Henry thought the driver was part of the Disney cast. I just wonder why some people choose the I am friendly method of service and some people choose the I am miserable method of service. And on the basis that we've only got one life on this earth, which is my belief system, why not go for greatness in the way that we serve and interact with others? The author George Orwell, you know, the author of books like 1984 and Animal Farm, he said something quite stirring on this. And he said, by the time you leave this earth, you have the face that you deserve. And I like that turn of phrase, even though it's very stirring and very challenging. By the time you leave this earth, you have the face that you deserve. And I think ultimately we have freedom of choice between what happens to us and our chosen response. I really hope that was an encouragement for you. And if you haven't already, let's have a little look. I'd love to see some thoughts in the chat box about what that stirred you to think about, that story, I Am Friendly. I'd love to get your thoughts. If my wife was here, Rosalinda, she'd be like, "Don't encourage him. Don't encourage him."
Yes, we want to encourage. We want to encourage.
Oh, thanks, Ralph. I really like that positive energy. I mean, we have a choice, don't we, really? I mean, I know that no day is perfect. None of us are perfect, of course. We all have poop days, which comes from the Latin root pupae. Who knew that? Pupae comes from the Latin poop. But ultimately, wouldn't you agree with me? We have so much to be grateful for. I mean, I love living in the United States, love living in California, love living in Santa Clarita. It's an imperfect country, imperfect union. But I'll tell you what, we've got so much more to be grateful for. And I love that, Greg, about customer service. I mean, when you think about superb customer service, wouldn't you agree with me? None of us, repeat, none of us have ever had superb customer service from someone that's super negative. I mean, it's like an oxymoron, isn't it? I like Ricardo's comment there about starting the day with purpose. See, regardless of what's happening around us, regardless of our relationship with our boss or our co-workers, the organization we're working in, ultimately, we can have our own purpose, can't we? I love that mantra that he had of I am friendly. Again, it's personal, it's present tense, and it's positive. It's the same psychology. Again, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a recovering accountant, but it's the same psychology that Muhammad Ali used, wasn't it? I am the greatest. First time he said that, by the way, was age 11, after winning one of his first major fights, declared it to his father, I am the greatest. Personal, present tense, and positive. Yeah, Kimberly, I appreciate that. I am friendly versus I am miserable. Now, we're all adults on the line. When I first wrote the text, I actually wrote, I am friendly compared to I am a miserable bastard. But my wife says you need to change that word and pronounce it differently. So I cleaned it up. I am miserable. Yeah, I mean, like we touched on yesterday, you know, think about the people that come into the workplace. It's almost like they've said to themselves, I am miserable. Beautiful. Oh, thanks, Eva. Appreciate that. Oh, thanks, Jay Carrilla. My boyfriend and I used to enjoy and compliment service employees who do their jobs well with great attitude. It's worth relaying the admiration and continue to encourage their enthusiasm. Yeah, kind of what you focus on expands, isn't it, really? Whenever I experience great service, I always make a point of pointing that out. It's rather like the greenhouse effect, they call it. What you kind of focus on is what expands. What you reward tends to get repeated. Oh, thanks, Rosa. Thanks, Anita. Oh, thanks, Nita. I appreciate that. I'll put my wife's cell phone number in here and you can text her. I'm just having fun. I'm just having fun. My wife goes to England on Tuesday for 2 weeks. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself, you know, just me and the dog. All right. Well, thanks so much for that. So if I may, then I'd love to share with you a second story. And this one, I think, really speaks directly towards leadership, especially leadership in kind of chaotic times and where we've got change or where maybe we might be under-resourced. And it kind of links back to what we were talking about there about purpose. And again, I wonder if I can just share this short story with you. And this one is called Be Like Ken. Did you catch that? Be Like Ken. And it's again, true story about a gentleman that I've had the pleasure to serve under. He's been my leader for the last 6 years now in a volunteer organization that my wife and I serve on. So here it goes. So, be like Ken. Again, I'd love to encourage you to see yourself in this story, and I'd love to get your thoughts either during the story or towards the end, and then we'll make sure we finish before the top of the hour for you. So a few years ago, my wife and I started serving as volunteers at the Royal Family Kids Camp, which is for children between the ages of 7 and 11 who are in the foster care system. And it's very tiring work, but a very rewarding one, helping those little ones who've really been let down by those who should have loved them the most. And the week, it's a kind of a week's camp in the summer, is made significantly easier due to the quality of leadership we have in Ken. Now, Ken is also a volunteer. In fact, every one of the about 85 adults who served the children that week are all volunteers. Now, Ken's a retired cop, and in my assessment, he's perhaps one of the greatest leaders that I've had the honor of serving and supporting, both in my working life and my time serving as a volunteer. And I'd like to think I've worked with some great leaders around the world, either as an employee or now doing what we do. Now, no one's perfect, of course, but allow me to share with you why I really believe that Ken is such a great leader. And Ken loves what he does. He's 100% fired up about the mission and the values of the Royal Family Kids organization. If I would have served under leaders in the corporate world half as on fire as Ken, I'd have been delighted to work for them. Now, Ken is also a good communicator. He's concise yet clear. And my observation has been that many leaders in the working world are so wrapped up in their own self-importance and are so set on impressing others, they're very wordy and intentionally sometimes ambiguous. Ken is a hard worker. He actually leads by doing. How radical of an idea is that? He leads by doing. And most leaders I've worked for are actually lazy and prefer the privileges of being a senior leader. And Mark Twain, the author, once famously said, quote, "Nothing motivates a person more than seeing their boss put in an honest day's work," end quote. Can I get an amen? I found this to be so true. Ken actually gets maximum effort out of me. Now, Ken plans ahead. He proactively thinks beyond the immediacy. And conversely, I've observed how most mediocre managers who really don't deserve the title of leader, most mediocre managers actually get caught up in the urgency of the latest problem. It's like they get their identity from the busyness. Now, Ken genuinely expresses gratitude. He sincerely thanks people for a job well done and catches people giving their best efforts. And most managers I've observed don't like to praise others. Did you catch that? Most mediocre managers do not like to praise others because they fear that the light will shine brighter on the other person and therefore they themselves will lose some of the glory. And I've also noticed that most mediocre managers would rather lead by instilling fear into their subordinates rather than be all touchy-feely with praise and recognition of others' efforts. Now, I've noticed that Ken also listens really well to his workers. Even though he's been leading the camp for 18 years, he listens exceptionally well to the comments, ideas, and suggestions of even the newest and the youngest volunteer. Whereas in the working world, I've sadly observed that the majority of leaders are poor listeners. And in fact, they really demonstrate a rather selfish streak as they tend to only listen to what benefits them. I mean, we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I've noticed that great leaders listen twice as much as they speak. And most certainly, I've observed that most senior leaders have little regard for those below them in tenure or rank. Now, Ken is very solution-minded. He solves problems. And on the other hand, I've observed how poor, mediocre managers will look for someone else to blame and will often try and work around rather than solve the problem, figuring that someone else someday will make it right. I think in summary, Kenny's just a nice guy to be around. And I can't say that for most of the leaders that I've worked for or that I've observed in the 247 organizations now that we've served over the last 16 years at New Leaf Training and Development around the globe. I'd actually socialize with Ken. I'd actually enjoy an adult beverage with Ken. And most leaders I've worked for or have observed are actually self-centered, arrogant, and somewhat deceptive. And often I'm glad to just get home after being around them. So if you're a supervisor, manager, or senior leader, be like Ken. If you own a company, be like Ken and try and build your leadership culture to be like Ken. It's not complicated. It's common sense, really. If only more leaders were like Ken, I believe that the world of work would actually be a better place to work within. So to recap, kind of love what you do, learn to communicate well, be a hard worker, plan ahead, genuinely express gratitude, listen well, be solution-minded, and simply be an overall nice person to be around. I seem to remember those kind of lessons in kindergarten, and I wonder what it is within the working world that kind of takes us off that path. So in short, in conclusion, be like Ken. I actually had the honor of sharing that story with Ken in a gathering of Royal Family Kids volunteers probably about 1.5 years ago. And as a big, burly, retired cop, it was quite moving to see a little tear in his eye. And obviously being an Englishman by heritage, I didn't show my emotion at all because we're educated as young boys to only show our emotion to dogs, horses, and a good rose garden. I'm having too much fun here, Denise. I would love to get your thoughts in the chat box. Let's have a look. Let's just spend a couple of minutes on this. I like Hiba's comment there from the last talk as well. I wasn't feeling my best one day, and while taking a walk, a stranger looked at me and said, "Smile." And I did, and it changed my mood. It's easy to be friendly. I like that. Thanks, Christina. Amen. I'm thinking about coming out to your conference next week, even if you don't invite us to speak, because I'm thinking Palm Springs, that time of year, and there's plenty of libraries and museums, isn't there, Rosalinda, in Palm Springs?
Yes, and not too far. We could take the trolley going, oh, not the trolley. What is it? The one that goes up to the mountain?
Oh yes, yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot what
Oh,
it's called.
Oh, yeah.
oh, thanks,
A
Denise.
gondola.
Thank you, Denise.
Any other thoughts about the little Ken story that stirred you to think about leaders that you work with or your own leadership journey? I'm a great believer that one of the wonderful things about human beings, including the French, most of the French. I'll tell you what, let's just ignore the French, Denise. I'm Some of you thinking, Paul, I've got French heritage. I find that offensive. I'm just having fun. But I think one of the wonderful things about human beings, including the French, is that really our tomorrow doesn't have to be our yesterday, because we can choose to change in the present. I've definitely over the years adapted my leadership style. And also, in my personal life, as a father and as a husband, as a friend, and as a volunteer, based on information that I take in. Because again, our tomorrow, we can change, as it were, in the present. Oh, beautiful. All right then. Well, I'm sensing, Greg, they're bored of me now.
No, we're captivated by you. We're captivated.
I'm really scraping the
Our
barrel
ears
now.
are like
I'm really
listening.
scraping the barrel now for comments. They're like, move on, Paul, we're fed up of you now.
They just want the comedy show.
See, Kimberly's saying deep in thought, right? So no. Sometimes silence isn't boredom, Paul. Sometimes it's deep reflection and just honest. We're just.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're at 8:53. What about if I take 60 seconds and finish you off with my favorite brand new dad joke?
Oh yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Shall I? So my kids get embarrassed. They're like, Dad, your jokes are so terrible. So I'll finish off with a little joke, if I may. So there's these two old men, kind of in their 80s, and they're out on the lake and they're fishing. And it's a true story, by the way. And they look down, and on this big lily pad is this frog. And the one old fisherman says, oh gosh, look at that frog there. And then the frog all of a sudden says, if you pick me up and kiss me on the lips, I'll turn into a beautiful young princess. And the old fisherman just ignores it. And the other one says, did you hear that? And the frog, it's a true story, by the way. And the frog says, if you pick me up and kiss me on the lips, I'll turn into a beautiful young princess. And the old fisherman leans down and says, oh gosh, okay. And so picks the frog up, puts the frog in his jacket pocket. He just carries on looking out on the lake. And the other old fisherman says, aren't you going to kiss the frog? He says, at my age, I'd rather have a talking frog.
That was good.
I'm going to go now and let you guys do something meaningful rather than listening to me yammer on.
We're all laughing, Paul.
You're awesome. You are awesome. You are awesome.
Well, it might just have a great rest of the day. Again, I really truly believe in what you are doing. I'm not just saying that. I really do truly believe in what CPA are doing. It's been a pleasure to work with you over the years. I'm hoping we can be a future service to you. And again, thanks ever so much, Rosalind. Have a great rest of the day.
So next year we will be March 1st through the 3rd, 2023 at the Doubletree Hilton at the Golf Resort in Palm Springs. We look forward to seeing you there. Think about it, save the date, start mentioning it, and plan it on your fiscal budget for next year so that we can see you live and in person.